In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, incoming!
What is up,
Hello,
everybody?
hello.
This is the Omnic Lab. Welcome. We are a podcast that's just new on the block that focuses on the strategies inside the game of Overwatch. We're here to learn through trial and error in our lab, even if things get a bit crazy and maybe blow up sometimes. We're going to brew up and concoct some team composition strategies. We'll stir in a few extra ingredients of tips to play better, and hopefully equip the listeners with a little bit more of the instruments that they may need to gain the strategic edge. I'm your host, Rob May, and joining me is the one, the only extraordinary strategist, Andres Gomez. What's up?
Hey, Rob, how's it going? Wow, that's quite an intro. I'm blown
There
away,
you go.
man. A little flattered. I hope you're not setting the expectations too high.
Hey, it's the first show. We gotta set him high so we can knock him down.
You're
It is
right,
the
you're
lab.
right. That is right. Glad we're
All
here,
right,
man.
so yeah. So this is kind of our first show, guys. Andres and I are very seasoned podcasters in the space, but Overwatch is new to the block, and so we decided that it would be a grand old time if us two got together and made this thing happen for you guys. We wanted to kind of bring a unique edge to this space, and we'll get into that here in a little bit, but we just want to let you guys know kind of the basic outline of what we're going to do today. So today, we're basically just going to introduce ourselves if you don't know who we are and you just know anything about Overwatch and maybe not other Blizzard games or Blizzard podcasts. We'll kind of give you a little sample size of what the show is going to be like as a whole, tell you about what you can expect for each show, kind of introduce what the show is also about. And then we even have a little time towards the end to kind of let you guys know what's happened in the most recent patch in the closed beta, and kind of some of the stuff that they may be thinking about internally before we get out of here. So with that being said, let's jump into what the show's about. So I'm going to turn it over to my good friend and yours, Andres, to do a little bit about what you guys can expect from our show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've always been a very big fan of a podcast or forums or any sort of communication where you can find information regarding the strategy of the games that I like, where there's an open debate and you can openly learn. I've always been a fan of learning through, videos, websites, and stuff. So we hope to bring a little bit of that. I'm a very big fan of exploring the games through the strategic side, and I tend to play them a lot. Overwatch is kind of like my new passion, both from like the lore standpoint, the story in the game is fantastic, to the gameplay, and the whole team strategic depth that is in there is very appealing. So hopefully with this podcast we can bring you a little bit about the discussion around each hero, tips and tricks on how to use them, a little bit of in-depth discussion of how they work and how they should be played. Also discuss a little bit of the team composition, setups, and how you can adjust your team against other team compositions. Hopefully some map strategies, map specific stuff, little paths or little looks and crannies that in the beginning of the game can be a little hard to spot, and a little more advanced stuff there. Hopefully we can bring you, news and changes about the game that affect the balance, that affect how the game is being played, keep you up to date with all that stuff. We can answer any questions that you guys might have. We're going to be playing this game a lot, and we're going to be learning this game together. So hopefully we can grow with you guys as the listeners, together, as a team. And then we're also going to be following some of the competitive scene that is currently in Overwatch. It's small, but it's there. Obviously, it's a Blizzard game, so it's going to have a very thriving competitive scene there. We know that they're willing to put a lot of time and effort into that, as well as money. So there's definitely going to be one. And the competitive scene is always what drives the strategies behind all these games. So we're gonna be following that a little bit. Probably not go too in depth following all the players in there, but we'll touch on them, on the best teams, and what they're currently doing. And then we're probably gonna shoot for about like a 45-minute, 2-hour show to do all these things. So hopefully we can get this to you in a timely manner that you guys can enjoy on your ride back home or on your off day at night, having hot cocoa on your porch, whatever your thing is.
Or maybe if you're just wanting to play the game and listen to some people.
Yeah,
and
there you
they're
go.
not your teammates
If
that are
you're one of
whining
those
at you.
weirdos that doesn't want to talk to your team and instead listen to a podcast, there you go.
So that's kind of the basics of what we're doing, and we really want to make this show like really accessible for a lot of people. Something kind of like a quick and dirty guide, I guess you could say, for strategies. We want to get those people now that are not in the game a little bit of a strategic edge before the game releases, which is why we've decided to try to release this early April before the game's closed beta is finished and open beta launches, and then the game releases in May. So let's kind of go into the section now. We're gonna let you guys know a little bit about us. So I'll pitch these to Andres, and he'll probably pitch me the same question back. But Andres, what brings you to Overwatch specifically? Like, and then why do this podcast? Like, why would we choose this?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, the real reason is because all my friends and family are tired of hearing me talking about Overwatch. So I'm just gonna do a podcast, so at least I can find people that want to listen to it. But no. Really is Overwatch is an incredible game. Is one of my new passions. I haven't been able to stop playing it since I got into the open beta. I know I'm gonna be playing it for a long time to come, and I know that I wanna be getting I want to get better at this game and get very good, and hopefully I can bring some of that knowledge that I learned through my journey into the podcast and share with you guys, and hopefully we can all get good together. I just like talking about this game.
Yeah, same thing from my end. Like, I don't know what it is about this game, but let me tell you, I had a really interesting experience that I'll share. Last week, a friend of mine that I go to do Hearthstone lands with on Wednesday nights. Shout out to Connor, but he had never played the game and he's been dying to like test it. And like nobody in my area has this game in closed beta right now except for me. So I let him pilot a couple heroes like Pharah and played Pharah. He also played Junkrat, and then one game is Reaper. And he's like, dude, ever since last week, I can't stop thinking about that game. You got to let me play again. So it's not just us, and it's not just the people that are in the closed beta with their flags of elitism that are telling you the game's awesome. Like, it's seriously, like, addictive. Like, you can't put this thing down. And if you know Andres or you know myself, anybody who's in the podcasting space probably enjoys talking about the game more than they do exactly, like, playing it. And that's me. Like, I can sit down for 2 hours and talk about the game for playing it for like every 15 minutes. I love talking about this stuff.
My girlfriend's tired of me bringing up like the new little shorts, the new animated shorts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're just so cool and so epic. I don't know. So like I've been watching them, and every time they come out, I bring her in my room and I'm like, guys, there's a new Overwatch shirt.
Look at this.
They like him too, obviously, but they're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, just parade your closed beta key in front of me one more time and see what happens. But yeah, so the next thing to get to know us a little bit better is kind of our gaming background. So Andres, again, I'll pass it off to you. What's kind of your gaming background, and then maybe if you want to zero in on your background within shooters specifically, you can.
Yeah, sure thing. I've been gaming my whole life, since I got my hands on a Super Nintendo and I got myself my first copy of Donkey Kong Country. I've been playing ever since. Never looked back. It's been one of my lifelong passions. And I've tried all sorts of games. I've gone from like, tabletop games to all genres of video games, RPGs, MMOs, first-person shooters, strategy, real-time strategy, card games, collectibles, you call it, you name it. I've always been somebody who's liked getting good at all of these things. With first-person shooters specifically, I guess that my golden age that I would say for first-person shooters was like my teenage years, back when I was in high school and you have a lot of free time. Back then, it was the original Counter-Strike and it was just becoming Counter-Strike Source was becoming popular then, and then
Good game.
yeah, that was a really good game. And then, but my true passion at that game at that moment was Call of Duty 2, the World War II game, and I think I spent the most practicing and playing that game, and it was so fun. I got so good with the rifle that I could just one shot with it. And at the time of that game, it was all about no scopes. So you were just running around everywhere and trying to shoot everyone by not even aiming from huge distances. And some people would get ridiculously good at that thing. I got decent at it, but it was just really fun. I played with my friends. We played in like local tournaments as well as like kind of like national ones. Never nothing international. This was when I was back in Colombia.
Okay.
But yeah, that was kind of like the most that I've played. And then I kind of fell off of it. I started playing a lot of Dota. Then I played a lot of World of Warcraft, and then that evolved into Hearthstone. And now we're going back full circle, back to first-person shooters with Overwatch.
Yep.
How about you, man?
Yep. Oh man, I've been playing games since I picked up a Super NES. So it's been a long, it's a long, strange trip. It's been to put it plainly. Like I've played first ever game I probably picked up, I believe, was the Mario Saga collection. So it was like Mario 1, 2, 3.
Oh, the
Mario Bros. Lost
Super Mario
World.
All Stars or
All Star.
Yeah,
Yep.
I remember that.
And then my second game was also it's actually a fighter game, and I'm like the worst at fighter games. But it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game for Super NES. So those are the two I've marathoned.
They go back in time.
No, this is not Turtles in Time.
Okay.
This is Tournament. Like
okay.
Mortal
Like Street
Kombat
Fighter style.
version. Yeah, it
Okay.
was really cool. So I got pretty decent at that, but again, I'm like 7 years old, so you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. So then, as I grew up, I played more stuff. So I picked up an N64. I played Donkey Kong 64. You know, the Golden Age.
Oh, GoldenEye, yeah, absolutely. I did
and
play a ton of
then-
that too.
I never owned it though. Like for some reason, N64 and Super NES, I only had like 5 games, and
Well,
that
they were
was just
so
never one of
expensive,
them.
you know, and like at a time
Yeah.
when you're like a little kid, you're just begging your parents, like, please, just
Right,
give me the game."
right. So we had like Lego Racing and like Rogue Squadron 1, those type of games. And then we got a GameCube when I started hitting junior high and started making my own money. So then we bought Smash Bros. Melee, and like, oh my goodness, played a lot of that. And this is about the same time I was exposed to card games. So I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, like a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh. We had a local card shop that's out of business now, but I used to go there every Saturday, use the money that I worked on the weekend for card pack and an entrance fee, and we got really good at that. So then if you fast forward again, when in high school, I started playing, or the tail end of junior high and early high school, I played Halo 2 competitively on an Xbox.
Nice.
And I got the highest rank that you can get through a little bit of illegal win trading. But I got all the way up to like level 40, 44, which at that point, everybody that's above level 40 is kind of top level material, and out of 50 ranks in Team Slayer. So I got really good at battle rifles, no shields, sticking people with plasma grenades, etc. And then I transitioned out of that into WoW. So I played WoW on and off for about 5 years, heavy rated for like 2 of those. And then I went to college and I stopped playing pretty much everything. So I picked up some emulators and played through that, and that was basically it. But then more recently, when I got back to grad school, I picked up some things to kind of make me not go crazy. So I started playing League of Legends competitively for Season 3. I played competitively, saying that like I did my first trip into ranked for a little while, and then I just like, I don't want to deal with this community more, so I left that, started playing Heroes casually, and picked up Hearthstone, and then now we're coming to the Overwatch community, and I basically just pick up those 2 games and I play those like crazy. But big into strategy, big into shooters for a long time. Just now finally picking up a game that it's worth my time in the shooters community.
Nice. Well, hopefully that gives you guys like a little taster of who we are and what we like for games, our little journey over here. And we're just not 2 guys that walked into Overwatch and decided to do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So what do we hope to bring to the table here? Well, I'll start with this one. So we kind of just want to start this from the outset of just saying, what do we have to contribute to the community? Well, Andres is pretty seasoned in this game already. He's pretty close to level 100 right now, right?
I think I'm into 100. Yeah, one level away.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you that don't know what that is, the game has like some crazy amount of stuff, and you can prestige every 100 levels to get new portraits and stuff in the game, similar to COD, but you don't lose anything. It's just pure playing status. But Andres has played a lot. I'm like level 35, and I've been playing a decent chunk of time in this game too. So he's really, really digging this strategic side, and I'm trying to learn it. But I think from my point of view, I'm going to try to facilitate a lot of the questions that a lot of players may have. And we're going to think a lot of strategies outside of the box of players that don't have the game access, at least for this first month. And then once you do have access, is try to get a quick handle and grasp on which heroes synergize with whoever. I'm going to try to pitch those questions to Andres, and that way we kind of know what we want to discuss. And on top of that, I just want to kind of be the average player, I guess you could say, like the person that's struggling right where you're at. I want to be there. I want to keep fighting, but I also want to kind of pitch how it feels on some of the balance changes. Sometimes feel unfair at my level, but then somebody that may be a little bit better at the game, a little bit more advanced techniques, and I'm already seeing Andres is going to be advancing through the ranked ladder pretty quickly, so he can tell us a little bit more what he's going to see in the mid to top tier realm of the ladder. And that's kind of what I hope to bring, and maybe a little bit of what Andres hopes to bring, but I'm gonna get Andres' opinion here and see what he has to say.
Yeah, we just want to make this kind of like a learning podcast, and we have a good dynamic going on over here. I'm a person that likes to spend a lot of time with the game, watching a little bit of the competitive scene, going to forums, doing the research pretty much. And hopefully I can bring some of that into the podcast, and through Rob we can make an informed conversation, informal, nothing too technical. We still want this podcast to be very conversational, but hopefully bring you guys some of that information kind of like in a nice compact discussion way, and help you guys learn with us. And then hopefully down the line we can hopefully make some gaming groups and stuff and bring you guys into our strategy. This is definitely
the trial and error section.
This is a trial and error, definitely. And you did mention that I was a seasoned player, and take that with a grain of salt. I have been playing this game a lot, but this game has a ton of depth, and learning one hero sometimes can take over 200, 300 hours, and we have 21 heroes, plus not counting the map strategy and the infinite combination of strategies that you can make with all the heroes. So there's a lot to discuss and a lot to learn. And
it's basically like playing the MOBA side, but you're a CSGO player. So it's really strange dynamic for this game.
Absolutely. There's a lot of mechanical skill as well as strategical skill in this game. So there's definitely a lot to learn. But yeah, hopefully this give you guys a little idea of what the podcast is going to be about and what you guys can expect when you tune in.
Got to know us for a little bit.
Yeah,
and
get to know us a little bit.
Before we move in, so we're going to tell you guys, just some quick little stuff that's kind of relaxing before we get into general Overwatch discussion. But who's your favorite hero, and what is your favorite map to play or game mode?
I'm pretty sure that this is going to be evolving over time and changing depending on my mood.
Sure.
But as of right now, I think my favorite one has become Tracer. And I know it's a little bit lame. She's the mascot and she's like the front page. But honestly, I didn't get into her for a really long time. I got into pretty much all the other DPSs before I got into Tracer. And now that I've finally been playing her a ton, I've finally been able to see a little bit of the taste of what you can do with her. And oh my god, she is so freaking fun. She's probably the only hero that you can get into the middle of their team, like where there's 5 of them, 5 or 6, and you can be there by yourself, still get 2 kills, and get out of there unharmed. Like, it's so hard to do that with any other hero, but you can pull it off with Tracer. Genji
Tracer has a really interesting skill ceiling for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I think she's becoming one of my favorite ones, and favorite map. it has to be Route 66.
Oh, that map is so good right
Yeah,
now.
I
It's
really
the
like it.
newest one, so just
Yeah.
because it's shiny, guys, doesn't mean it's the best. But this
No,
one
but no, because of
happens to
that.
be
I
that
love the
way.
music. I love the vibe from the map, and also like that is just a payload, and there's not a lot of choke
Right.
points, so there's a lot of like fast
It's a
pace,
very open canyon.
very mobile kind of style map, and I dig that. I like that.
It fits your playstyle too, right? Because you like to be the highly mobile, high damage
I
characters.
do like the highly mobile ones. At least for now,
Yeah,
I've been playing a lot of those. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. McCree's another one up there that you've been playing a lot too.
yeah. I've been playing Tom McCree, Senora, for some reason, but I like Senora.
The
How about you,
interplay.
man? What do you like?
Oh, I like the noob tube people, so people are gonna hate on me for this, but I love Junkrat. Like
Hey,
he
Junkrat
seems to
is
be like
really
one of the
fun.
easiest people to play for a lot of players. But I tell you what, I've come up with some really nasty combos. I've been able to like throw his little packet charge that lets you do the boost and the knockback. But I've been able to like use that to create space, deal damage. And like if you can, I've been able to plan ahead a few times, like laying down a trap in a really obscure place and then like pinching my body between myself and an opponent and throwing that so you kick back your opponent, you create the space that Junkrat likes to use, and then you're also kicking them into your trap so they can't move. So you can
Nice.
do a lot of really cool, interesting things, even with basic heroes like him or Soldier 76. But Junkrat
Yeah.
is my go-to.
That's what I really like about this game, that even the heroes that seem the most basic have a lot of little tricks and stuff that you can do
And
that are actually
quirks.
pretty advanced and can give you a big
Right.
edge.
Yeah, yeah. Far as another one of those characters that I like playing a lot too, but I'd have to say Junkrat's probably my top
You like
one.
the
But
explosive ones, huh?
I do, but it's really odd because if you ask me like who my favorite hero is to play besides Junkrat, I would have to say Hanzo. Is like
Hmm.
high skill ceiling, but I'm moving to Japan in July, and oh my gosh, I can't get enough of Hanzo. He's so cool.
You like
Everything about
the
his
theme
lore.
around him?
Yeah, I think it's the lore, the character development. It's just so Japan, and
Yeah. I feel
Blizzard
like
has done a
we should
great
separate
job.
that question. Like, who's your favorite hero thematically, and who's your favorite hero actually in the game that you like fits your playstyle? Because I feel like
Yeah,
sometimes those are different. Because
yeah, yeah,
Tracer
exactly.
thematically is definitely not my favorite, but
Right,
gameplay
right.
wise is.
Yeah, I even thematically like Winston too. It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, he's a cool
But
character.
favorite map though, I'd have to say it's probably Ilois. It's the map in Greece.
Ilios?
Um, Ilios or however you say it. So cool. Whitewash buildings reminds me of when I was playing a game called Mirror's Edge.
Yeah.
Very sleek, really cool world building. And then I love point capture number 2 where you can launch people in that big hole in the ground.
Oh yeah.
And then you can play
It's a very pretty map. I
Lucio.
feel like I should be on vacation in Ilios.
Yeah.
But then Roadhog comes around the side and tries to hook you.
Yep. I just like it because I play Lucio a lot on that map, and I'll just go inside of the hole and then ice skate all the way up to the top and knock people down.
Nice.
All right, so that's a little bit about us. Let's get into what is Overwatch for those of you that have been dying, sitting on Reddit, sitting on YouTube, watching streams, and praying to the gods of RNG and John, and you have your little shrine for Kaplan to give you that beta key. We're here to kind of let you know not just what you can see and what you can find on the internet, but kind of just like maybe some basic misconceptions about the game and maybe the style of the game and how to really come at it from a new player or a somebody that's completely different from either genre. So a MOBA player coming in to play a shooter or a shooter player coming in to play a MOBA because it's kind of both. So Andres, what do you think about what our impressions are so far? Like, how do you approach the game when you come into it?
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of people can go into YouTube or Twitch and look at the game and obviously get a sense for what it is. But once you start playing the game, you really go, like, your mentality and how you approach it really starts changing the more that you play it. I remember that when I first started playing it, I knew that it was kind of like a fantasy Counter-Strike, right? So it's a shooter, and then you have all these crazy abilities, but it takes a minute to really embrace like those abilities, especially because in the beginning you're not gonna know the maps, you're not gonna know like all these like crazy things that you can do. For example, you mentioned Junkrat. he can use his mind to hit himself and throw himself around, and you can use
Right.
this to get on top of places that normally you would not be able to do with
Like a rocket jump.
yeah, like a rocket jump with a lot of other characters. Same with characters like Farah. There's a lot of like nooks and crannies and buildings that you can get on top of and get to different places. A lot of the first realizations that I had with this game was on the defense maps. There's usually a choke point place, and usually in most shooter games, you'd have to find a way to kind of like kill him up in some space and then go through the choke point. And now that's what I was trying to do, right? Like, oh, let's open some space and then try to go in as a group, or maybe like all go in together so that they cannot kill us all at the same time. But we just kept getting mowed down every time in those choke
Right.
points. And
It's like a meat grinder.
yeah, you just couldn't get through, and it's like, oh, this game is imbalanced. Freaking Bastion, Torbjorn, they suck. This sort of thing, and it takes a minute to realize, like, wait a minute. This game actually allows me to do things that I don't need to be at the choke point, right? I can pick Tracer.
You don't think
and
outside of the box of just like linear movement.
yeah, you can pick a Tracer, do a triple blink, and then you're way past that choke point in their backline, already like capping their defense point. So it's like this sort of mentality that has to like change. Imagine like Counter-Strike meets a MOBA, right? So you have like strategies from both. You have the mechanical skills of a game like Counter-Strike, where you actually need to be able to aim, move yourself properly. You have to be able to be aware of your surroundings, and, you know, where you're in the map, where your opponents are. But then you also have to have this mentality of kind of like MOBA, where your heroes have ultimates and all these crazy abilities that synergize with each other. You can do crazy things like with Winston, you can jump over gaps or buildings, land on top of your opponents. You can shoot rockets with Farah from like thousands of miles apart to get down a turret. I don't know.
And
There's
even
some,
simple things too that like Andres is missing that aren't maybe necessarily simple to the regular player, but the fact of the matter is the damage dealing units do more damage than say a tank unit. And like that seems really basic to like a MOBA player, but like if you're coming in this from a shooter perspective, all the weapons do the same amount of damage. They just do more when they hit the head, right?
Yeah.
No. Like Tracer's rate of fire, or not Tracer, let's do this like Reaper. Reaper shoots a shotgun. Every single pellet represents a point of damage, and then how much space you create between that also has fall off damage for each pellet that even hits you. So not only is your surface area diminishing as you're increasing between the two units, but Reaper's damage overall has a fall off based off of the amount of surface area. So if you're a tank, for instance, it's a lot easier for you to soak up every one of those little bullets. But if you're you know Tracer, she can just like, or I'm sorry, not Tracer. I meant Roadhog. Like Roadhog versus Tracer. Roadhog is this massive behemoth potbelly thing, and then you have Tracer who's like zipping around and super skinny.
yeah, that's a very good point. Like, if, for example, in a regular shooter, you wouldn't have a character that can stand there in the middle of the battlefield and get shot at and not die immediately, right? In Counter-Strike, if you do that, you just die immediately. But in this one, you got Reinhardt, who can literally step into the very open and just have like maybe like a Mercy or a Zenyatta behind him and just put up his huge shield, and suddenly, even if
You can soak a lot of
even if
damage.
4 people of the enemy team are hitting at him, he will stand there for a while.
Right.
So it's like that type of characteristics, and then you got like crazy ultimates that sometimes are even as valuable as having like a known hero right there. For example, Ferris ultimate that fires a barrage of rockets, and anyone who's standing in that thing will die pretty much immediately if you don't get out of there or kill her really, really fast. And with this sort of thing in mind, if you plan him out well, like you by yourself can take out like 3 to 4 guys. If you're really lucky, sometimes you can take out the entire team. I've seen it happen a couple of times with like Tracer ults or Pharah ults. So in Counter-Strike, you don't have this sort of thing, right? You don't have a weapon that you fire it in one area and then get a 6-tuple kill. Like, you have to do this manually.
And you can't
with your
change
opponent.
weapons the more you play. Like you actually have to change a hero.
Yeah. So it's all these little things that make Overwatch like very characteristic, and why it's worth touching on like our first impressions of it. Because we did have like a change of mentality from where we first started playing the game till where we are now. And it's like a switch that flicks, right? And hopefully the people who have not played the game can and listen to this can know that, and from the get-go know that there's a big learning curve, especially through the maps and the heroes. But once you get over that little hump of like, oh, this is kind of like a shooter MOBA, it becomes really, really fun, and so
Right.
many possibilities start opening up.
Right. And I think the biggest emphasis point that we realized coming into this podcast for a shooter is like, I understand you can have a podcast about anything, don't get me wrong. But like coming into an Overwatch, you can have a significant edge, even if your mechanical skill of firing and shooting as different heroes is low. Like you can have a significant edge. And that's kind of what we're here to do. We're not going to help you per se with all of your mechanical skills and like how to really aim and use the hero to the best of their aiming potential and like killing people. We're going to basically break down maps. We're going to break down team compositions, like how you synergize or de-synergize with other teams, whether it be good on a defense or good on an attack, or even just good on a payload versus a non-payload map, right? So like we have all of these different factors that play into the game 10 times more rather than your mechanical skill with McCree. Okay. So we got lots of cool stuff, but what are some common misconceptions? Like I know the first thing we were talking about this internally, Andres, we were just like, a lot of people don't understand that even though this is a MOBA and a team-based game, it's like the only game out there that's 6-on-6 fighting.
Yeah, I would say
It's not 5.
one of the first misconceptions that a lot of people come into this game is that they can pick a hero and go off on their own and do their thing. That is never gonna happen in this game. This game is completely
Right.
a team-based shooter, and actual communication with your game is extremely preferred. Normally, when I'm playing by myself, sometimes certain games I don't even like going into like the voice chat or anything, or even try it
Mhm.
out. But in this game, I've been finding myself more and more just very willing to go into the voice chat. And so far, I've had a pretty good experience with it. I don't know if it's maybe because of the closed beta. I don't know if maybe if once this is open to the public, it'll not be as good. But I found that communication in this game is key, especially when you're trying to coordinate your ultimates or when you're trying to capture a point. Just being able to call out like, guys, there's a Widowmaker or a Bastion to the top left, and that can avoid three of your teammates from just getting slaughtered, right? So that sort of thing really helps in this game, and I feel like if you are trying to come into this game and try and take it as a single player experience, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, I would echo that entirely. It's kind of more comparable to a highly advanced Team Fortress 2 kind of a style, but it's like not just even advanced, but it's more nuanced. There's more maps. There's more stuff just going on within the team composition besides running a couple of the same characters over and over again. Like having 21 heroes is pretty interesting versus like TF2's like 10, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not COD, it's not CS:GO, it's not something where you can just carry your team as one player. I have found it be very, very odd if you can carry your team as one player, like a typical snowballing MOBA. But this game is very fair to both teams.
Yeah.
Making sure that both teams have one or the other side of attack and defense on a map that may be attack favored. You get to play both on attack, and if you both win, then you go to like some sudden death. The abilities and the movement seem very balanced for sieging instead of just killing. So I think if you come into Overwatch with that mentality, I think it really will help you. It's like I'm coming into this thinking about sieging and going in as a team. So instead of getting behind their back line or insta-locking like Widowmaker and Hanzo to shoot people from the back lines with a sniper because that's your play style, it may not be the best thing for the team. And you probably just cost your team just from choosing a hero that's not good on the map or a hero that's not necessarily going to help your team win in that scenario.
Yeah. And then I wanted to address another two little misconceptions that I feel like some people sometimes have, or disagreements, I would say. I would say be open-minded to not just playing one hero in this game. I feel like
Oh, absolutely.
there's certain people that just see one of the heroes that they like and they're like, I just want to become the best that I can be at this hero and kind of ignore everything else. And
Hmm.
you could do that, honestly, you can, but you are depriving yourself of a lot of the other aspects in this game. There's so much strategy and depth, and honestly, there will come a time where you will be in a map and against a composition who greatly disfavors your hero. And you don't want to be the guy who only knows how to play that and not anything else, right? You wanna have a
Right.
couple of heroes. You don't need to learn to play every hero to their full potential, but at least be
Mm.
acquainted with most of them, and then have a couple of ones that you can switch between that you're good with. Um, and then
It's kind of like League, right? Because you don't want to just specify a specific champion. Like lots of people say, pick 3 champions and 2 roles, or 2 champions and 2 roles in case you get banned, and just play. Or same thing with like other games. You want to specialize in maybe 2 roles as opposed to like
Yeah.
heroes or
I
champions.
would agree with that. If you want to specialize in something, I would specialize more in roles rather than in specific heroes. So you can
Right.
focus on attack or on defense. You can focus on
Sure.
healing or tanking, that sort of thing. Even though like those
Mm.
are very general roles. And later on in the
Yeah.
show, we'll discuss more of the roles and that sort of thing in detail. But the last thing that I want to say is there's a very big misconception too that there's hard counters in this game. And in my opinion, there's no such thing as a hard counter in this game.
Skill mashups.
Yeah, exactly. For example, a Widowmaker against a Reaper. If they're in close quarters, obviously the Reaper is greatly favored.
Favored.
But if the Widowmaker is really good, she can still win that matchup. You know what I mean? This still is a very like mechanically skill intensive game. And the people who can aim the best, the people who can move the best, the people who have the map awareness that is the best, will win most of the match, even if their hero is in favor against another ones. And a lot of the times, matches come down to this. Even if like the teams in both sides are not entirely counters to each other, skill matters a lot. Obviously, if counting on equal skill, if your composition tends to sync up a little more against your team, against your enemy team's composition, you will have the upper hand. But I don't think that there is such thing as a hard counter in this game. I just wanted to say that.
I would agree with you to a certain extent. I think to the hard counter is kind of just like the term that people slap on it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I think that there's certain degrees to which characters will counter other characters better. For instance, Farah is a flyer, and if I'm playing Junkrat, that's more of like somebody that lobs grenades on the ground, is very favored in ranged or mid-range fighting on the ground, and matches up against the Farah, he's probably going to die. But there are a lot of times where skilled players, again, going back to skill matchup, you can win on favorite matchups. It's similar to Hearthstone, right? Like you're playing 2 different decks, and one of the cards in one deck is just like, there's still that 30% chance you can win, but it's not as favored. So
Absolutely. Like you said, like
it's
for
just
example,
winning a bad matchup.
for example, a Pharah versus a Junkrat, right? You would expect the Pharah to win most of the time just because it's going to be really hard for you to hit Pharah with your grenades, especially if she keeps her distance, right? Well, she has pretty much
Right.
infinite range and can catch you. But a really good Junkrat, depending on how he moves, he can move around into buildings, try to lure her into maybe one of the houses, put down a trap, throw down his mine, and then Farah's gone, right? Or if Farah's smart, she's not gonna chase him, but he might be able to find a vantage point and then throw down his grenade, knock her off of the ground, and then kill her. So there's a lot of things that you can do in like that sort of sense to skew unfavored matchups to your side depending on your skill. But
Yeah.
like we said, there's heroes that naturally predate on other heroes, right? Like for example, Soldier 76 loves Pharahs. As soon as you see a Pharah jump in the ground, you just freaking hunt her down with that gun. But again, Pharah can see
Widowmaker prey on them pretty good too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that sort of mentality, but that is the only thing that maybe there's a misconception. So don't be so judgmental about like, no, this hero cannot do it against this. Like it also depends on how you play the hero and how your team composition is playing their team,
Yep. So speaking of heroes and how they stack up against each other with our misconceptions, that'll take us into what game modes can you expect from this. So first of all, we're going to go into broadly which game modes you can have. And then once we get into talking about ranked, we're going to talk to you a little bit about how those game modes break down into specific game type. So the first type is there's quick play, and there's custom, there's brawl, and there's ranked play. So let's break those down. So Andres, quick play is probably the easiest, so I'll cover that one. So quick play is just like you want to jump in, you want to play, you don't have to play both sides of the map. You can just play on one side of the payload, whatever one you queue into, you can get in there. Right?
Pretty much.
So,
this is like your bread and butter mode. This is like you want to practice, you want to learn a hero, you don't want to bother like bringing a team. Doesn't matter if you lose or you win, you still gain some experience. There's really no penalty. This is just like your
let's go
mode.
So what's brawl?
All right, so brawl is really interesting. Brawl is taking off straight from Hearthstone. They didn't even
try to hide it.
Yeah, they didn't try to hide it. They're like, okay, this is a good idea, Hearthstone. We're taking this straight into our game. And I think it fits Overwatch, right? It's like a lighthearted mode. This is zero competitive, right? This is if you just want to have fun and maybe play the game in a different light, in a different air. They have some pretty cool brawls coming along the way. Like, for example, they'll have like an All McCree brawl where it's Route 66, all McCrees, and then
only headshots.
Yeah, no, I think they removed the headshot ones because they said that they were actually really, really crappy. Like nobody would be able to kill itself.
Nobody wanted to play.
I remember I played it lasted for like an hour. It was a McCree, a Hanzo, and Genji only headshots on one of the King of the Hill maps, and it was hilarious because it was literally like 6 versus 6 on the point, all shooting at each other, and nobody was freaking dying. Just every once in a while, like one person would die, but it was like everyone on the point just fighting forever. It lasted so long to the match.
Gosh.
But
so that's a bad example of what would actually happen sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like a free-for-all game. It's kind of like they take the custom game engine that they introduce into the game, where you can just modify cool a ton of the rules, and you just for the week you'll have like that set of rules, and everyone can just go in there and play. One of the ones that I really like was the one where it was all defense heroes. That one was pretty interesting because trying to cap points with all defense heroes versus all defense heroes.
Really hard.
It was hard, but like it opened like to new strategies and new ways of seeing the game. And a lot of times, like the attacking team could actually win. So I don't know. It's a fun mode.
Yeah, and then custom's kind of like it's hard to describe. Like their custom mode actually has a fairly large amount of freedom. It's no Halo Forge, but it's got some pretty interesting things.
I feel like custom mode has a lot of potential. It's just like their make your own rules mode. Play this game however you like to play it. Yeah. So you can take away heroes. You can change rules. Like make it only headshots. It's basically like if you want to make your own tavern brawl and play with your friends. You can make the characters have more health or less health. You can make ultimates charge faster or reload like a lot slower. Give tanks
like 100 health and give Genji like 600.
Yeah, you can increase the attack on the heroes. So it can be a fun mode, especially if you have like 10 friends or I guess 12 friends. If your friends list is very big and you guys want to have some fun, custom mode might be the game for you.
Yeah, find us on Twitter. This is something that as we kind of grow as a community for the podcast, we would love to make some cool custom games. Like that was one of my favorite things from Halo is like doing shotguns, no shields on this massive map, and you played like 200 kills or something silly. So hit us up with some cool game
and you guys are interested in something like this, we would love to put together some custom games, 12v12, some crazy rules.
Oh man, that'd be super crazy. And then our last game mode is ranked. So Andres, why don't you break this one down for us?
Sure. Ranked is the latest mode that got added into the beta. Ranked is pretty much the mode that everyone has been waiting for, or everyone that's into like competition has been waiting for ranked. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna become the main game mode. they're still doing a lot of iteration on it. There's still a lot to improve, but at least we have the first version of it, and so far it looks pretty good. So here's a few things that you need to know. To play ranked, you need to get to at least level 25. Before that, you're not allowed to play it. And I guess it's because they don't want brand new players jumping into ranked, not knowing any of the heroes, not being familiar with any of the maps. Because you know how people can be, and if you don't know what you're doing, some people are gonna get mad at you, and they want to avoid that. For new players, don't have a negative experience. So at least you have to get to level 25, then you can jump in. Yep. You can jump in as a solo, or you can jump in as a group. Depending on how many people you jump in with, you'll try to get matched with other people with a similar amount in their group. So if you jump with a group of 6, you will probably get matched against other groups of 6. If you jump as a solo, they'll try to match you with other groups that are solo. Obviously, because of time constraints and stuff, they don't want to make you wait forever. Sometimes you'll be like a group of 4 and 2 versus a group of 5 and 1, or a group of 6. It depends, but
yeah, you're never really waiting that long.
You're not really waiting that long. The matchmaker so far is okay. I feel like the population is not big enough for them to be very picky with how they match the teams.
And it's really new, so
and it's
everybody's
really new,
at the
so
base
they're still
level.
tweaking a lot. So sometimes you do jump in and get some unfair matchups of pre-made games of really good people versus kind of people that are just kind of not that good, around. And you just get destroyed immediately.
I just like it because I don't have to play with level 2s when I'm playing in quick play.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, that is true. But basically, it works a little bit different from quick play. Well, in quick play, you just play the match, and then you can get out of there, or you can keep queuing, and it'll kind of keep you in the same lobby with the same people. In competitive, it's just one match. You queue up for one match. But the interesting part of this is that you kind of play home and away, right? So if you're doing let's
let them know what a match qualifies as. It's not just one individual game.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, for the control maps or the payload maps, you will play as the defense as well as the attackers. And
okay,
then
hang on, Andres. Payload is what they call escort. Point capture is control, and attack defense is called assault.
Yeah, I guess we should call them by the right names.
Yeah. So Andres is going to talk to you about what a payload or an escort style map is right here.
All right, so when you're doing escort, your job is to take this payload from point A to point B, and you do this by being near the payload. If the enemy team is currently touching the payload won't move. But if your team is touching the payload will slowly start moving until you get it to the other point. So basically, the point of the game is you want to be on top of the payload, keep the defending team away from the payload, and kind of pave the way to the point. As the defending team,
you're called move of the cart.
Yeah, moving the cart. As a defending team, your only job is not to let this happen and stop him at all costs. Keep him away from that payload. So you can already imagine, you create all sorts of traps and devices to get him away from there. But basically,
otherwise it'll contest it and the payload just stops moving for a few seconds. And then the more people that you have on your team near the payload will move even faster up to a cap.
Yep. So for competitive mode, you'll have to play as attackers and defenders. It's pretty simple how it works. If you win as attacker and you win as defender, you win the match. You call it a day, you get your star, and you move up in the ranks. If you lose as attacker and you lose as defender, well, you just lost a game. You lose some points depending on where you are in the ladder, and that's it. And if you win one but lose the other one, you go into an interesting thing where it's called deathmatch, and it takes you
sudden death
to one of the how do you call the King of the Hill maps?
Control? Those are called the point capture or control maps.
Yeah, point capture or control. So you just have to play one more game against the opponent's team where you try to capture this 1 point before you do and hold it for a certain amount of time. And if you're able to hold it for that amount of time, you win the match and you win the game.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that is cool about this is that a lot of the other games in this genre, what they do is they do what is called stopwatch. And what this means is one of the teams plays the first game, and if they're able to complete the objective before the time runs out, then the other team has to complete that objective in that same amount of time or less.
Or
right?
less. Yep.
And I think this is a little
Team Fortress 2 does this, doesn't they?
yeah, and it's cool in a certain way, but I feel like it's a little anticlimactic because you'll be in the middle of the match, and once the time goes over, the entire team knows that they failed the game. They just write GG in the chat, and then they all exit the lobby before the match is even over. Like, they don't even finish it. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah, there's no overtime. There's no contested point. It's just pure time attack at that point.
And I feel like that kind of sucks, especially for a game like Overwatch, where maybe you can have a strategy that is very fast paced and you're trying to like get it really fast, but then you can also have a strategy that maybe it's a little more, it's a little slower but equally as effective. And it would suck that because of stopwatch, a lot of those strategies wouldn't see the light of day.
It just limits a lot of strategic gameplay that people can come up with, and they don't like gating people that way.
And also, it's anticlimactic to just be in the middle of the match and just be like, "Oh, GG, nothing happened really like significant." It's kind of confusing for the viewers. Like, wait, the match just ended? They were just in the middle of it.
It's in the middle of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they're doing it this way. I think that it's gonna work. Hopefully, the competitive crowd will embrace it. I think they will.
So I'll do the next one. So the next two are the one that's most similar to Andres's is actually the assault, and this actually will overlap more with the escort maps than a lot of times, because a map like King's Row, you actually have an assault point that you need to go in and capture, and then once you have captured the point as the attacking team, the payload comes out of a garage, and then you have to escort the payload through 3 checkpoints. There are other maps that are simply just 2 assault points. The attacking team goes in, captures a point, like on Hanamura. They go into the little bell tower shrine, they cap that point, and then they go to the back where there's the other shrine, and they cap that point, and that's the game. And the defending team just tries to keep them from actually sitting on the point long enough to capture it. That being said, this functions the exact same way with sudden death. If the attacking team caps both points on both teams, after you switch attack and defense, then you go to sudden death on a point capture control. So the tiebreaker will always be a control map. On top of that, the point capture, instead of it being what it normally is in quick play, where you do best of 3, so you only have to capture the first 2 points. If you capture the first 2, you win, or if you capture 2 out of the 3 points, then you win. Point capture will be randomly assigned for a best of 5. So even though the map only has maybe 3 point capture places, it will rotate them randomly, and you'll have to win 4. I'm sorry, you'll have to win 3 out of the 5 of them.
Yeah. So I think that the games right now are a little long, especially in ranked, compared to like quick play. If you just want a quick game and then get out of there, you might just want to go into quick play, because on ranked, at least you have to play home and away, and if they tie, you have to play an extra game. On the point capture games, you have to play sometimes up to 5
minimum
games.
of 3, max of 5.
Minimum of 5, maximum of 3. So the games are significantly longer. From what I've experienced, they are significantly better in quality in terms of strategy. I've seen a lot of teams already do a lot of really cool stuff. You can see that they coordinate their strategy, a lot of like very synced up ultimates, as well as like the composition of the team is just very solid overall. A lot less people kidding around, just picking Hanzo and Widowmaker on attack simultaneously. Or that sort of thing,
Bastion on attack.
Yeah. Although it can work if your team composition is working towards that, you know what I mean? But if it's just a random Bastion attack and nobody's really like there to cover him, it's like, dude, what are you doing? But in this sort of mode, you've seen like a lot of more of like competitive compositions come to life. Even without coordinating in the beginning, right? Like everyone kind of like already has been getting the gist of like what's good, what works together. So I feel like the ranked system's coming along well. It works well if you're solo queuing. It works well if you're queuing with a group. It remains to see how the matchmaker balance is once the game actually hits.
Let's go into that. Like, what does a progression look like for ranked? Like, how do I progress as a player, and
Sure.
why? Why should I want to progress? Right.
So it looks very similar to the Hearthstone one, the
Mhm.
ladder progression that they've instituted in the Hearthstone one.
Yep.
Basically, you have 5 ranks. Starting from Challenger, you go to Advance, then you go to Expert, then you go to Master, and the last one is Heroic, which is the equivalent to the Legend rank if you play Hearthstone.
Yep.
But basically, how they work is each of these tiers or levels has 5 divisions inside of it. Every time you win a game, you gain 20 points, and it takes 100 points to advance to the next division. You need to advance
And there are
through-
win streaks.
Yeah, and there are win streaks. So if you win games in a row, you will gain more points. But basically, you need to advance through all 5 divisions before you get promoted to the new tier. So starting from Challenger, you would need to win. If there was no win streaks absolutely whatsoever, and the points were
This
just
would
out
be
of flat,
painful.
you would have to win 5 games to advance every division, and you would have to advance 5 divisions per tier. So that's what, 25 games per tier?
Yeah, with no win.
With no win streaks and no losses, it would take 25
Yeah.
games to
Yeah,
advance per
exactly.
tier. And there's 5 tiers, so that's 125
25 matches. Sorry. Yeah, 25 matches as opposed to games.
Yeah, 25 matches. So it would be 125 total matches that you have to win to get to the heroic tier. But basically, once you get to the heroic tier, you are
Assign you a rank.
yeah, they assign you a rank, which actually is your actual win percentage. So it actually measures you with everybody else who's in the heroic, telling you from who has the best win percentage to who has the worst, and you will like know exactly. So this is kind of like the competitive rank, right? Like it's almost like in Hearthstone where the rest of the ranks are your proving grounds, and once you get to heroic,
Yeah.
that is where like the top of the competition is always gonna be.
Yeah, it functions similar to Hearthstone as far as setup is concerned, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, it still does look a lot like a MOBA. Like when you're playing League of Legends, for instance, they have Bronze League, Silver League, Gold League, Platinum League, and then you have Diamond and Challenger. So this is similar to like the Challenger or Master Tier League that they have as the Heroic, but they don't have like the rank system in League is different. Like they have rank, what is it? Gold 5 is the lowest of the tier, and Gold 1 is the highest. It's just reversed. Challenger rank 1 is the highest, and Challenger rank 5 is the lowest. The other big thing that's really neat is you actually can't lose ranks when you're in the Challenger tier.
I was
Just
about to
like
mention
if
that,
you're
yeah.
in Hearthstone, you can't lose any games in the 25 to 20 bracket.
You also cannot get demoted tiers
Or get punished.
So let's say if you're in Challenger and you advance to Advanced, you cannot get demoted back to that Challenger. So that's important to note. Same if
Yep.
you are from Advanced and you go to Expert, you cannot get demoted back. Even if you lose 1,000 games, you will be Expert. But once you get past Expert, you will start losing points if you lose games. So let's say if you win a game, you will be awarded 20 points, but if you lose a game, you will be deducted 10 points. And I think once you get to Master, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you lose a game, you lose equal points as if you win him.
Yeah, so it gets increasingly more difficult to gain, but they're basically doing this so that you're preparing yourself for when you hit heroic, and it is purely win percentage, because that's exactly what it is.
Yep, pretty much.
Same thing with Hearthstone. When you're rank 5, that's where people say you're a little under halfway there, because when you hit rank 5, it's all about your win rate, because there's no win streaks anymore, even though in Master League you can still win streak, which is really cool. I'm glad that they did let that win streak thing, so you can kind of have a little bit of an edge to get to heroic, but you
So,
do want to have a good win percentage.
In all honesty, this is exactly like the Hearthstone ladder to me. You know, like Challenger, like you put it up here, is like rank 25 to 20, where you cannot lose any ranks. Then Advanced is like rank 15 to 10, except that over here they padded a little more in how you win and lose games between the lowest and the highest, while in Hearthstone, you just get win streaks and that's it, right?
Yep. They did say something about rewards, but we just don't know yet. They're testing it.
Oh yeah, the seasons are gonna be 1 month long, so after every month they're gonna reset everything and everyone will need to climb back again. We we are about to see how this is gonna work, just because this is more of a team-based game. So who knows if a month-long season is a little too short for this type of game, or if it's gonna be just enough, kind of like it is for Hearthstone. Remains to be seen. And they did mention what you said, the rewards, which are only gonna be cosmetic. So I think they mentioned like portraits or maybe like certain skins that you might be able to get if you participate in that ranked
Like
season.
special loot box type rewards, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But I think that wraps it up for competitive play.
That wraps up our competitive play section, and now we can go to briefly cover kind of what's happened with the patch notes. That being said, let's kind of just do some highlights. Like, the show's running a little long because we did a lot of the introductions this week, but just some important dates to blast through. The end of closed beta, they haven't necessarily announced it, but we're assuming that closed beta ends May 2nd, so that early access pre-order beta that's open to those that have pre-ordered the game can start May 3rd and May 4th.
It might end even a little sooner. I wouldn't be surprised if they take it down maybe like a week or two in advance, just to prepare everything for launch.
Honestly, I can also see them doing like another open beta test, like stress test weekend before that, but I could be wrong. Maybe the May 9th or May 5th to May 9th is the stress test week before everything.
That's my bet. That is the stress test.
Okay. Also, two big things for that pre-order early access May 3rd and 4th. Those that pre-order the game can get the Nor Widowmaker skin as a bonus for the pre-order. And everybody that has pre-ordered gets one friend invite to bring with them for the event. This is no closed beta access, no open beta people, just those that have pre-ordered. Open beta, which means anybody can join the game, starts May 5th, which is the next day. And this is also open for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC players. You'll have access to all the heroes, all maps, no problems. The only dates that we're not sure is what's going to happen between May 10th and May 23rd before the Xbox, PlayStation 4, and the PC game launches May 24th. What are some other notable things in the patch, this specifically? Got a bunch of little tweaks here and there, a bunch of new skins.
Yeah, there's a lot of new skins. I believe that they said that they want to have at least 4 legendary skins per character by the time that the game gets launched. So
they're super close to this right now.
Yeah, they're getting close. A lot of the new legendary skins look really, really cool. I'm really loving the new Genji one, the young Genji.
Young Genji.
I didn't like the young Hanzo, so I was surprised that I actually liked the young Genji, but he looks like a badass freaking ninja.
It's really cool, yeah. I really like the Scarecrow skins for Junkrat.
Oh yeah, that's probably my new favorite Junkrat one. He looks badass.
He looks
so scary,
like straight
creepy.
Out of Batman.
Yeah.
And then I also like the...
Have you noticed that
go ahead.
they're doing kind of like all the Batman villains with Junkrat? I wonder if they're gonna do more.
They kind of did, yeah.
Because they did the Jester one, which looks like the Joker, and now they did the Scarecrow one. That would be cool.
Well,
if
he is a
like
sociopath, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I like the Lucio skins. They gave him some hockey stuff, so I'm a big hockey fan. So I think that's pretty cool.
I know. I'm still not a fan of the Lucio ones. I don't think I've liked any of them aside from the Silver Frog. That's my favorite one. But the rest, I really don't like him. No.
Yeah. They got some other color reskins on some other stuff. Did you see the best one that they've released so far, which is that Pharah Thunderbird one? That's
yeah. Dude, they've been doing a fantastic job with the Pharah ones. All of the Pharah ones look awesome. I like all of them.
Yeah, Mobile Suit Gundam Pharah.
Yeah.
You got that one. You got the Anubis mecha suit. Oh, so cool.
Yeah, she's really cool. I like her skins. But yeah, I feel like they're doing a great job with all the skins, and it's awesome that this is their way to keep monetizing the game afterwards. It's nothing to do with balance or locking content. And like, this sort of thing is so cool that I think people are totally willing to be like, oh, maybe I'll throw in $20. And honestly, me, by just playing the game, like reaching level 100, I have almost all of the skins that I want to get anyway already without even spending a dime. And then I have almost enough money to get the Scarecrow one, which is the only one that I'm missing that I really want. So
Nice.
it's actually quite accessible to get the skins, and it's so cool. They
But
add so
you can
much
get some
flavor.
rotten luck with those loot boxes. Let me tell you.
I have
Like, I
gotten
don't
like
think I
5
have more
legendaries. That's
than.
true.
I think I only have 1 or 2 legendary skins, and one of them's a Mercy one that I was like, this is the best Mercy skin, granted, but I don't play Mercy.
Yeah, that's the worst
So
way to get that one you don't like. But yeah, that's it for skins. Be looking forward to more of those. They're super fun. We like them all.
we have a link in the show notes, so you can, or not link in the show notes. Sorry, we have a link to the patch notes, which is kind of like some little quirks and stuff with what's there, and then we also just listed out all the skins and what they kind of look like for you.
Yeah. And then they did some mild
there's actually
balancing
one more
stuff.
thing I missed here.
Oh, what was that?
This thing actually went up today, but Kaplan said that somebody in the forums had requested that they have a randomizer for their skins. So if you have like 4 Torbjorn skins, I want to be able to select random so that whenever I queue in as Torbjorn, I can get one of them. And I don't have to keep selecting new ones. And they said this is something really cool. We want to do more with random functions within the game, especially than cosmetics for sprays even. So Kaplan's like, I'm on board with this. We're going to try to make something like this happen in the future.
Yeah,
So
that'd be really cool because there's a lot of really cool stuff. So it'd be a shame if you have to manually go change them. You know, people get lazy and they're not gonna do that. So having the skins wouldn't be there. You wouldn't use them.
Yep.
So that'd be cool. The only other thing that's noteworthy from the patch is there's a couple of balance changes that they did. Some kind of like quality of life improvements. I think with Mercy and Torbjorn, who are the only 2 heroes that can switch guns, they made it so that once they change to their firing gun, if they run out of bullets and swap to the scepter or swap to the hammer and then swap back to the weapon, it automatically reloads it for them. So
it seems way more broken than it actually is because the animation for switching weapons is relatively the same amount of time.
it's about the same amount of time, and in all honesty, it's
They're
a pain
really
in the
weak
butt having
weapons.
to switch someone having to switch that, especially for Mercy, like having to use her rivet gun and then switch into the scepter. It's a little too complicated, and this streamlines the process a little better. It really, I don't think, adds too much of an edge. It just kind of like doesn't make that as painful. And then the only other noteworthy change was that they nerfed Symmetric Shields.
This is actually huge for those of you that aren't playing right now.
For the people who are in the beta, they know how much she was needed because Symmetra was becoming kind of like the go-to hero for defense and even attack on most cases, because her shields coupled with her teleporter just provide too much utility for your team. And she was one of the heroes that had the highest win rate across all levels of play, so from beginning
attack
to
and defense
to expert level, attack and defense. So they looked at her, they're trying the new nerf. If you're not in the beta, this probably like concerns you very little because you're gonna see her anyway with how she's gonna come out to be. But yeah, that's about it for patch notes. Oh, the last thing is, I did want to mention this. They did a little video about their netcode with their
really cool video.
2 of their senior developers over there, and I thought that was super awesome. You normally don't see a company do any of this, and in honesty, it's a subject that doesn't concern most of the player base. Most of the players don't even care or think about these things. But as a company, for them to do this and come out so transparently, be like, hey guys, this is how we do ours, and just give their audience the benefit of the doubt and being like, hey, I know not everyone is interested in this, but there's a couple people out there who really grasp this concept and can actually use some of this information, and then coming out and on top of that, kind of like trying to explain it with the little cups and stuff, so that the people who are not that into it could kind of like even have a reasonable chance.
It's pretty adorable to see some nerds kind of explain this hyper expensive and complex netcode with some cups with like chibi faras taped to them. It's really cool.
It was really cool, and I hope that they keep doing some of these things, you know, for some of the other stuff that the community wants to know.
Absolutely.
I don't think anyone is opposed to some more of these videos.
Yeah. Well, that being said, guys, Andres, we got to get out of here.
That's right.
We're going to tell you where you can find us. So, Andres, where can the lovely people that are listening to the lab find you on the interwebs?
people, if they want to find me and see what I'm up to, they can go into Twitter and look me up at I Play Games. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also find me on Twitch at Twitch TV/I Play Games with a Z, because somebody else got there before me and stole my name. And then you can also find other podcasts that I do, like Coin Concede for Hearthstone. We have a website for that. You can just look it up at coinconcede.com or look us up on Twitter. We're there. If you're into Hearthstone, check that out. And that's where you can find me.
Awesome. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at the same handle, Not Rob. You can find my Facebook online portfolio kind of thing. I do designs. I do photography. I do video. You can find me at Not Rob Media on Facebook. If you want to play some Rocket League, I haven't been on Steam in forever, but I'm Sir Twick on there. My Twitch handle that also is the same place that I do a Hearthstone podcast every Friday at 11 a.m. or 11:30 a.m. Eastern is Not Rob May on Twitch. And the Hearthstone podcast is called Felons Chosen. We've been podcasting for a little while now, and it's a really fun time, and it's definitely one of my favorite things to do in this world.
That's funny that we both have like our Hearthstone podcast.
Yeah,
it's like a little rivalry at the end. Like, hey guys, come check out my Hearthstone podcast.
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding. They're both really good. Check them out both. If you're into Hearthstone, you should be listening to both anyway.
Yep. I'll play the outro here, and you guys can find the lab if you guys want to find us anywhere else. You can find our extended show notes on the website. Our website is at the Omnic Lab, is omniclab.com or .co. You can find us on Twitter at Omnic Lab, Facebook Omnic Lab, email omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. We want to have some more emails coming in, so feel free to email us there. We are on Patreon, we're on YouTube, and our Twitch channel, which is what we're doing right now. So you guys can hit us there. We'll see you guys next week.
Walk in harmony, my student.
See you later.
Check you guys later.